So a couple weeks ago, Ridley Scott said the reason why The Last Duel bombed at the box office was because millennials won't watch anything that's not on their cell phones. And as a millennial, I completely agree. That's why I'm watching a 15-year-old anime right now instead of The Last Duel, because I can watch it on my cell phone. That's the only possible reason. Cell phones.
The audiences who are brought up on these fucking cell phones, the millennium, do not want to ever be taught anything, except unless it's you're told it on the cell phone.
Right.
Hello, welcome back to another video of me struggling with my lighting situation for about half an hour. Haven't cut my hair in a while. You know what? I look great. I look great. Hello! Today I'm going to talk about my favorite anime that you definitely have never heard of called Witch Hunter Robin. Let's just jump right in. I'm going to talk about some Canadian shit, so Americans, listen up. Back in the caveman times, the early 2000s, there was a channel called YTV, and it programmed content directed at teens aged 12 to 17, or content that had a PG-13 rating. YTV saw a gap in the market for animated programming directed at this age group. Adult Swim had the rated R market, airing shows like Cowboy Bebop, and Teletoon and Family Channel were making animation for children. My god. I'm going to literally murder the sun. I'm gonna shoot a gun at it. So in 2004, YTV created a programming block on Friday nights called Bionics. This block ran from 9 p.m. until midnight, and they would air animes from Sunrise Entertainment that had a PG-13 rating. This was advantageous for YTV for two reasons. One, they didn't have to make their own content, they could license it from Sunrise, and two, at the time, a lot of Sunrise animation was dubbed in Vancouver.
It's the best broadcast of the biggest anime library in the country.
Impressive.
Can I have your autograph?
And stop interrupting us.
Bionics, tonight from 9 till midnight.
Again, you Americans probably don't know this, but to air content on cable TV in Canada, a certain percentage of your production needs to be Canadian. So YTV was able to meet this CanCon requirement by airing these animes. This strategy ended up being very successful. YTV ended up being the second most watched channel in that age group, right under Much Music, which in Canadian media is one of the highest levels of achievement you can possibly reach. At the time, my experience with anime was very limited. I knew I liked Studio Ghibli, but other than that, I had no idea what was going on in the world of anime. But because I was a 13-year-old nerd, I watched TV on Friday nights, and Bionics blew my mind. It was so edgy, there were mysteries, death, romance, guns, robots, fights. I'm like revealing my 13-year-old self right now. I still remember the lineup to this day. 9:30 was Gundam Seed, which I liked a lot, but I couldn't stand the protagonist Kira because he kept crying and whining about fighting the giant robots. And I would just be like, dude, get in the robot and start killing some motherfuckers. Kigali and Atheron were way cooler, and they should have been the main characters, but for some reason we kept following this wimp Kira around. Inuyasha was at 10 p.m., which I was very soft on, and I still am to this day. I'm not a huge Inuyasha fan at all, because this dude has anger management issues and keeps bossing around his girlfriend. I was like not a fan of that dynamic. But then at 10:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time was the magnum opus of Bionics, Witch Hunter Robin.
Stay tuned. Witch Hunter Robin is coming up next.
I cannot express to you in words how obsessed I was with this show. I watched every episode twice because it did 2 runs on YTV. I owned the Witch Hunter Robin box set. I used to frequent a Witch Hunter Robin website where someone would post a recap of the episode with their own funny commentary. I was part of this forum where you could post like your Witch Hunter Robin opinions, and you know 13-year-old me loved arguing with neckbeards over this super obscure anime. To this day, I know every word of the theme song phonetically. I have no idea what any of these words mean. I was so into this show, I was dangerously close to writing fan fiction. So Witch Hunter Robin takes place in a near-ish future where a portion of the population are descendants of witches from the Middle Ages, and they have psychic abilities. As time goes on, more of these people are being identified, their powers are awakening, and they're becoming progressively stronger. Sometimes when these people realize their powers, they start to exploit it, whether it be through petty crimes or straight up going mad with power and murdering people. To police these witches, there's a secret government organization called the STN. The STN is run by a combination of humans and witches, and they employ witch hunters. Witch hunters are witches who have been identified by the STN, and they are forced into a life sentence of hunting down other witches for the STN or risk being hunted down themselves.
How much longer will it take, do you think, before we manage to hunt them all down?
I'd say it'd take about 30 more years.
I guess I'm gonna spend the rest of my life hunting and paying off loans.
But you're not doing any of the hunting.
And besides, it's not like you administrative guys are stuck here for life or anything like that, unlike the rest of us actual hunters.
The series starts off with a new hunter called Robin, the titular character, being sent from headquarters to the Japanese branch of the STN to replace a hunter who was terminated by the organization 8 months prior because that person went mad with power. I'm using a lot of air quotes here. This will become clearer as time goes on. This is very complicated.
It's so dense. Every single image has so many things going on.
The show starts off with a basic Monster of the Week premise where the team has to hunt down a witch who's causing a ruckus. Sometimes it's a witch who's murdering their business partners. Other times it's a doctor who's using his powers to save his patients' lives at the expense of the lives of others. This part of the show focuses on the world building, the team dynamics, and establishing the backstory of all these people. However, halfway through the show, it takes a dramatic turn from a cop procedural to a government conspiracy thriller. Spoiler alert, in case you plan on watching this obscure anime from 2004. The boss of their branch, Zaizen, has been developing his own technology that will allow humans to hunt witches rather than witches hunting witches, so he can eradicate witches altogether to make humanity pure again.
What the hell was that all about?
That was a factory assault team.
That's exactly my point. Why would the factory attack me?
He wants to start hunting witches with humans, using the power of the Orbo.
With no need for a group of hunters? I guess it should come as no surprise that he's trying to eliminate us now.
Hopping on that Aryan race train, because that always ends well. It doesn't, just to clarify. It's bad. Throughout the second half of the show, Robin and the team start to question the morality of hunting down their own kind and the motives of this organization. Are these witches really mad with power, or are they just put in situations where they are forced to become mad in order to be hunted?
Looks like this guy hasn't had a real job for over 2 years.
2 years?
Yeah, what's up?
That's right about the same time he started showing signs of his craft. Do you really think it's out of the question, forcing someone out of society, just to awaken their powers?
It's eventually discovered that this organization is just hunting down innocent people because they fear their power rather than those people being inherently evil. Finally, at the end of the show, the big reveal is that the reason why there's so many more of these witches and they're so much more powerful is because the age of man is ending and a new age of witches is beginning.
There is only one future, and impure witches like you will have no place in it. Neither do you, nor you!
All of these humans are trying to imprison, marginalize, and murder these witches in order to maintain their status quo and power in society. I decided to go full nostalgia critic and rewatch Witch Hunter Robin through the eyes of a relatively mature adult. Next video, I'll be reviewing Pink Floyd's The Wall, so hit subscribe to stay up to date.
I'm Jesus! Feel sorry for me, I'm Jesus!
Upon rewatch, I see why the show really resonated with me as a kid. The visual style of the show is really unique. It's Matrix sci-fi mixed with Victorian Gothic, and the only other piece of media I've seen that in is Event Horizon. All of the characters are relatable, unique, and have their own motivations. All the team interactions are pretty fun.
Maybe she just decided to play hooky today.
I'd say that's more your speed.
The maximum range is up by 10%, and her accuracy is now 98%. That makes her almost perfect.
That means we'll finally get some use out of her.
We know there are incidents.
What do you have there?
It was at the scene of the incident.
At the scene of the... You took something away from there without asking?
Is that bad?
What do you mean, is that bad?
If someone amazing shows up, you think I'll be let go?
You might be.
What?
Are you looking at websites that you know you shouldn't be?
Of course not. The chief does that, not us.
We're gonna be in trouble if we cause another false alarm. Look, Robin, I know you want to try out your powers, but this isn't the way.
Don't you know what it's like to want to use your powers sometimes?
Everyone was missing, so I figured you were up to something sneaky.
What's up? Thinking really isn't your style.
Every character has their own mini-arc. Dojima goes from slacker to serious.
Why is it normally you're barely able to drag yourself to work every day, and yet you manage to pull 12-hour shifts at this place?
Wow, Chief, you look more worked up than usual. Does that mean you miss me? Hey, I did it! I hunted a witch! Karasuma and Sakaki, you guys should stay here at the office. We have to make sure we look after Robin too, you know.
Sakaki goes from brash and impulsive to more of a leader.
You really have to get your act together. Just say sorry isn't enough right now.
How lame.
This won't exactly be safe either.
You don't have to tell me that.
And Karasuma goes from kind of an orders-taking follower to an independent thinker.
It sounds to me like you can't wait for another incident. But I'm not like that. I'm much happier when nothing happens at all.
You're so strong.
No, I'm not really. I bet you I'm one of the most frightened ones out of all of us.
I was afraid that I'd gradually fall to pieces and go insane. I knew that you were lying. I never believed you for an instant.
The series does a good job of showing how they live in paranoia of being murdered and how they are under constant surveillance. The show gets very surreal at some points, mostly when the witches are using their powers, but allows the visuals to get really creative. And finally, the protagonist, Robin, is a really awesome active female protagonist. I, as a preteen girl, definitely wanted to get into the adventures that she gets into. She is super powerful, gets shot, saves her team, transcribes ancient ruins, solves mysteries, goes into hiding, battles people, and gets driven around in a sick car by a brooding older boy. Honestly, the dream. However, this show has a lot of flaws. I would summarize all of these flaws under the adjective of inconsistent. Every element of the show is uneven. The animation quality is really uneven. At times, it's pretty good. Other times, it looks like the animators literally ran out of time drawing. The pacing of this show is wildly uneven. Sometimes it is so slow for like 90% of an episode, and the last 5 minutes, it's super action-packed. Overall, the show structure is really weirdly paced. The first, again, 8 to 10 episodes being slow world building, and then it turns on a dime, and then it goes at light speed for the rest of the series. Even though the A-plot is really twisty and engaging, there is so many B, C, D, E, F plots that go absolutely nowhere. Robin's powers affect her physical body, but that whole thing is dropped. This bartender has a whole episode dedicated to him, but he has no bearing on the overall story. Same with this Inquisitor character, who is in the show for an episode and then just pieces out of the story. Everyone in this show is a double agent, to the point where it doesn't make sense because that character would have acted totally differently if they truly were a double agent.
You traitor.
That's the pot calling the kettle black. Come on, tell me, Amon. I'd like to know how what I did was any different from what you're doing now.
Working as a hunter at the STNJ was camouflage. It was my cover for that mission.
There's an attack on the office where the motivation of that attack changes probably 3 times throughout the show. Oh yeah, and Robin is a super witch because she was genetically engineered. Also, Robin was able to kill an immortal witch after 2 centuries, and in exchange, that immortal witch gave Robin the fragment of knowledge, which is a super stick that gives her even more powers. It's a lot for one season of a TV show. The dialogue at times is really clunky, mostly in the first half.
You were lying. There's no way this is true.
I'll try to make it easy for you. A witch's power doesn't exist as far as society is concerned.
I thought it might be bad dubbing, but I watched the subtitled version, and that's the way the dialogue was originally written. Many times throughout the show, it's rough, awkward, and super on the nose.
My own objective? Nah, it's nothing like that. I just can't stand it when someone decides they can hunt people down and lock them up by insisting they're a witch or a seed or something of that nature.
You are a witch, yet you willingly serve the Confraria.
No, I'm...
Oh? Then tell me, what are these powers of yours? Are you saying that it's not witchcraft?
No! I am not a witch!
No? What's so different about you?
And if I always do what they tell me to do, then they'll let me live. But then I learned something. I learned that a life inside that kind of cage doesn't mean anything.
She's not worried at all about his incident. Tomorrow she's trying on the dress at the chapel.
In a way, she's scarier than a witch, you know?
Got it. Do you get it? Do you get it? Do you get it?
This is just a bizarre thing I found on YouTube, but the main title sequence is a direct rip off a Madonna music video. And we haven't even gotten to the tone. One of the biggest things I noticed as an adult is that this show feels like it was meant to have a rated R rating, but it was changed to meet a PG-13 rating. Why do I think this? The entire show is set in a modern day workplace. Not a high school, not a military academy, not a camp, not a whimsical alternate world full of teenage demon creatures, but in an average modern day office. They wear work clothes, talk about budgetary constraints, office politics, and the motivations of the head office versus their branch. I don't want to make assumptions, but I just don't see that stuff resonating with 13-year-olds.
A 40% cut in the project budget. Connect me to the chief accountant at Solomon's Japan branch.
The kill count in this show is wild. I estimate about 2 people die per episode, and Robin murders upwards of 30 people throughout the series. But so many of the kills are weirdly sanitized. For example, in this episode, a witch is crushing people to death, which I thought was really cool. But instead of being gruesomely crushed, they burst into sparkles?
Are you like me? Are you?
Answer!
And the team is always hanging out at this bar, but they never order anything? I imagine in a universe where this was allowed to have an R rating, the team would all have mild drinking problems to deal with how awful their lives are. But instead, they just kind of hang out here and don't drink anything, even though they're at a bar. Amon is the most inconsistent character ever put to screen, and the show can't decide if he's Robin's colleague, love interest, or executioner.
What do you think?
Huh?
About Robin's powers?
This is rather unusual for you. You're not one to be concerned about other people.
2 hours later.
Robin is not a hunter anymore. She's a witch.
1 hour later.
Robin, I don't think of you as a witch.
20 minutes later.
I'm sorry, Amon, but if you can't have faith in me, and if you honestly think that I'm such a dangerous witch, then go ahead. I have faith.
12 seconds later.
I don't know for sure whether or not someone as powerful as you ought to exist. But the only way to find the answer to that is for you to survive.
This character's whole backstory is that his family was torn apart and murdered because they were witches, and he lives in fear of his own powers awakening and hates himself because of his witchiness.
What is your power, Amon? It looks like you always use a gun. Perhaps it's just that you haven't awakened yet.
There's no need to answer your question.
And there are so many references to his womanizing tendencies, but the series never overtly shows anything.
Oh, that's Amon's girl.
His what?
From out of nowhere, you decide to call and ask me where I am and what I'm doing.
I'm sorry. I don't think we should see each other anymore.
I was wondering when you were going to say that.
On top of that, he is always at this fucking bar, hanging out, and he never drinks, even though he's a grown-ass man. I realized while editing this video that Amon does drink at this bar, and in this specific scene, he appears to be drinking a whiskey. I like to think of myself as a Witch Hunter Robin expert, but today I truly failed my audience. Also while editing this video, I realized that I am unfairly harsh to this character. It isn't his fault he's a victim of poor screenwriting and mommy issues. He has some good qualities. For example, he is really good at posing when hunting witches. Look at that pose. Wow. Such an epic pose. I think the reason why the character of Amon is so inconsistent is because he was written for an R rating and then had to be changed to meet a PG-13 rating. In an R rating universe, I could see this character being a Don Draper type, someone who is distracting himself from his self-loathing with womanizing and drinking, but you can't really go all the way with a Don Draper character in a TV show rated PG-13. And because you can't do all of that, his motivations and character changes from episode to episode because the writers are trying to figure out what to do with him. Overall, when you compare this show to other Sunrise productions like Cowboy Bebop, the technical quality and overall tightness is not even within the same universe as that show, which I thought was strange, and it made me want to do some more digging.
Jet, do you know that there are 3 things that I particularly hate? Kids, animals, and women with attitudes. So tell me, Jet, why do we have all 3 of them neatly gathered in our ship?
After watching Witch Hunter Robin with a more critical eye and seeing all these weird problems, I became more curious in the actual production of the show. Witch Hunter Robin was created by Sunrise Entertainment, a little animation company who was also behind Inuyasha, Gundam, Visions of Escaflowne, and of course Cowboy Bebop. Sunrise Entertainment was divided into 8 studios, the most prestigious studios being Studio 2, Studio 1, and Studio 7. In 2002, the longtime Sunrise member Shuko Moraes was given the opportunity to make his directorial debut with Witch Hunter Robin within Studio 7. That same year, there was a lot of unrest at Sunrise, specifically within Studio 7. 2 major producers and quite a few key creatives left Studio 7 to create their own animation company, Manglobe. Not only did some of the creative staff from Witch Hunter Robin leave to work for Manglobe, but the director himself, Shuko Moraes, left Sunrise after Witch Hunter Robin to work with Manglobe on Samurai Champloo. In addition to that, Moraes' next big directorial project, Ergo Proxy, was done with Manglobe and it had an R rating. Moraes continued to work with Manglobe up until 2015, when Manglobe declared bankruptcy after announcing it was 350 million yen in debt. I couldn't find any press on what exactly happened in Studio 7 in 2002, but I can imagine that this unrest probably affected the production of Witch Hunter Robin. One of the reasons why I wanted to tackle this topic now is because the live-action remake of Cowboy Bebop dropped recently to very mixed reviews from audiences.
It's rough. I am kind of split.
When comparing the Cowboy Bebop anime versus the live action, the anime version is so much better because it used the medium of animation more effectively in the visual storytelling compared to the live action version. Satoshi Kon, who made some amazing animated films like Millennium Actress, Perfect Blue, and Paprika, once said that animation is a powerful medium because you can edit it faster than live action and show the audience only what you intend to show. This side-by-side comparison of the 2 Cowboy Bebops shows how this works. The anime is able to quickly add in fast insert shots, while this is impossible to shoot and edit in live action. The final scene in the anime is just faster and more visceral. My biggest issue with Cowboy Bebop isn't the different storylines or the performances. The main problem is that the visual storytelling feels slower and more stale, probably because they tried to do a literal copy and paste of the anime, but couldn't do it as well because they were limited by the medium of live action. Also, the live action changed Vicious from a mysterious shadowy figure to a literal Saturday morning cartoon villain, which was a weird choice. Personally, I love the original Cowboy Bebop. It's a great show, super influential, and truly beautifully animated. However, I knew it would be borderline impossible to remake that show successfully because it is really hard to remake something that is already perfect to begin with. When you look at great remakes like David Cronenberg's The Fly or 1988's The Blob, those movies remade source material that was really flawed. Older material that had some interesting ideas, but for whatever reason, whether it be budgetary or studio issues, they couldn't execute the idea to its fullest potential. And then some savvy production companies saw the potential and then gave the IP to competent people who had an actual budget to work with. I think Witch Hunter Robin falls into this category. It has a lot of interesting ideas, but for whatever reason, its execution is really inconsistent. And I think this show would do well with a live-action version, because it doesn't use the medium of animation as intensely as Cowboy Bebop. There's some action, but the meat of it is mostly thriller, noir, and character drama. It's also set on Earth rather than in space, in locations that exist in the real world, and it features adult human beings rather than corgis. The supernatural powers would be tricky to adapt, but I think it could be done with modern-day special effects. A live-action remake of Witch Hunter Robin was almost greenlit by the Sci-Fi Channel in 2004, but then was dropped probably to make another Battlestar Galactica. Let's make it happen, Netflix! The people demand a Witch Hunter Robin remake instead of Kissing Booth 5.
Oh, check it out. There's actually fans. There's not many of them, but still. Did you read this? Yep. Although for fans, they sure do complain a lot.
I know what you're thinking. Tara, what do you want to see from a live-action Witch Hunter Robin remake? You probably aren't thinking that, but I'm going to tell you anyway, because even as an adult woman, I am dangerously close to writing Witch Hunter Robin fanfiction. To organize my thoughts, I've created a numbered list. 1. Choose a storyline and really flesh it out. I think just expanding the one main plot of the organization trying to create a technology that would allow them to eliminate all witches is the most interesting one. Get rid of the bartender subplot, the genetic super witch thing, all the double agents, the magic stick, all that stuff is just distracting. 2. This is awkward. Expand on the backstories of the team. The first 10 episodes try to do this, but a lot of it is implied or underwritten. For example, Dojima is a rich former party girl whose parents became estranged from her after she was labeled a witch.
I can't even remember my parents' faces anymore.
I think that's pretty interesting. Why can't we see that? Sakaki is always wearing the sports jacket and gives me bro vibes. What's his backstory? Michael is a computer hacker character. He is the only human on the team, and he was an average programmer before he learned too much about the organization. All these backstories would be cool to see and would add more heart to the team elements. Also, add more parts that they hang out like normal people. The audience would be more invested in these characters, and the stakes would be higher when they're in danger. 3. When Robin first joins the branch, there's a lot of conflict between her and the team because she uses the old medieval ways of witch hunting and they use the new technology. They think she's weird because she uses her knowledge of magic and her abilities to hunt witches, and they use computers and the Orbo.
The Ring of Ogam and the 8 letters of Hagal. But this is incomplete.
What do you...
I won't be using the Orbo. It's disgusting.
How do I work this thing?
I can do it.
Jeez, watch it, okay? What are you trying to do, burn me?
You're not gonna burn Sakaki. You've got the Orbo.
That's not the point.
Damn it.
That conflict is glossed over as the series progresses, but I think a remake could explore that a little bit more. Maybe the team could learn a little magic, Robin could learn how to use the internet. We could learn more about this world, and it would give the characters the opportunity to grow and change. Just like a real TV show. 4. Age up the content in general. It would raise the stakes even higher because you don't have to sanitize any of the kills. I personally want to see a human being squished to death. In the anime, all the characters are really young, in their late teens and early 20s. Robin is supposed to be 15 years old. As a 13-year-old, this probably made sense to me because that seemed really old, but now as an adult, I realize that is totally absurd. These people are trained military personnel who are double agents and shaking people down for information. People in their late teens aren't organizing complex sting operations.
Pupil scan confirmed.
That took years off my life.
You said it.
They could all be easily 10 years older than their ages in the anime. So would I recommend Witch Hunter Robin to you, the viewer? I would, but I warn you, it has a lot of quirks. It's not like the show is as good as Cowboy Bebop, but you've never heard of it. It's rough around the edges. But if you're into anime, give it a watch and comment below and tell me what you think. As always, please like, subscribe, follow me on Twitch, Twitter, Instagram,